The video you just watched ended with these words of wisdom. Take care of your rocks first, the things that really matter. Set your priorities. The rest is just pebbles and sand. This mindset applies to life and business because time is not the only finite resource you have to manage to achieve your goals. Setting your priorities is all about maximizing the value of every resource you have at your disposal, whether that resource is time, budget, people, or any other tangible resource. This mindset also applies to your goals and tasks that must be done to achieve them. In this challenge, you will be introduced to some tools that will help you consider your options and prioritize your choices to manage for maximum value. One of the guiding principles for setting priorities is the Pareto principle. You may know this principle as the 80-20 rule. This is the idea that 80% of your results come from 20% of your actions. The converse is also true. 80% of a situation's problems can be traced to 20% of the defined causes. The trick is to define the underlying causes and quantify the value of your current or potential actions. Using the Pareto principle, you can analyze any situation to uncover potential problems associated with any process and identify the highest value actions that will help you fix the problem. The steps for completing a Pareto analysis are as follows. First, identify and list all the problems you need to resolve. Second, identify the root or fundamental cause for each problem. Then, assign a score to each of the problems. The scoring method you choose to use will be dependent on the nature of the problem. It could be measured by a dollar figure, time lost, or even number of complaints you're receiving. The next step involves grouping the problems based on their root causes. In this step, you're looking for commonalities. Next, add the scores up for each cause group. The group with the top score should be your highest priorities, while the one with the lowest score should be the lowest priority. Take action by dealing with your highest priorities first. For more information on this type of analysis, I'd suggest you using the link below to further your learning and your understanding. The next tool used for identifying priorities is an impact feasibility chart. This tool is used to compare and contrast different options, looking for those that offer the most value. Whether you're needing to decide which goal you and your team should address first, or which actions you should take to achieve a specific performance goal. Each alternative is considered based on its impact, which is how much value would that goal or action produce if you were to invest your time and resources to it. The other parameter is feasibility. How feasible would it be to accomplish that action or goal? Now, feasibility should not be confused with ease, because there are a number of things that should be considered as you assess the feasibility of any goal or action. Some of these considerations would include, have you or your people performed this action before? Or will training be required to build the essential knowledge and skills needed to execute that action? Do you have the necessary resources available to accomplish the goal or task? Are there any time restrictions that may restrict the feasibility of accomplishing this goal or task? These are just a few things to consider. Bottom line, you are looking for those goals and actions that will deliver the greatest impact or value with the highest level of feasibility for accomplishing it. Use of this tool starts with a goal, a SMART end or performance goal. This is important even if you're assessing different goals, which, if accomplished, would bring you closest to your end goal. Next, brainstorm alternatives. Consider every possibility. There is great value in engaging every person connected to this goal into this step because others might bring forth options you had not considered before. Step 3 is assessing the impact and feasibility of each alternative goal or action. It is important that you be as specific as possible when assessing both parameters so that you can begin differentiating your alternatives. Finally, assign each alternative to the appropriate quadrant. Again, you are looking for those goals and actions that offer you and your team the greatest impact or value when it's accomplished. Those things that move you closest to achieving your SMART goal, and those things where accomplishment is most feasible. But notice, not even all high impact, high feasibility alternatives are equal. You may have several alternatives that fall into this quadrant. Which one or two should be your priority? While the low impact items, even those that are highly feasible, can be quickly eliminated from consideration, it is important not to overlook those alternatives that offer high impact but today are not highly feasible. This quadrant is often referred to as the strategic quadrant for a reason. Investment of 5 to 10% of your time or resources on an alternative in this quadrant, focused on raising its feasibility, could bring more long-term value than any alternative you have in your high impact, high feasibility quadrant today. An alternative to impact and feasibility is a simple pros and cons comparison of different alternatives you need to assess and establish priorities around. When using this technique, it is still important to start with your SMART goal before choosing and assessing your alternatives. Once you've identified your alternatives, you can then start capturing information and insights that relate to each alternative action using the columns pros and cons. The information you capture will relate to impact and feasibility, but with more detail around each parameter. How much value would each alternative offer? What resources will be required to execute each alternative, and do you have access to them? How much time would be required? Are there relationships that you can leverage to execute one alternative that may not be available to execute the other? Once your assessment of the alternatives is complete, you can then choose which is best, which should be a priority. It is important to remember that the best alternative is not always the one that has the most pros and the fewest cons. All pros and all cons are not created equal. One alternative may offer a big and significant pro, in other words, offer more value despite the cons. That makes it a better alternative. It's about setting priorities around the best and highest value alternatives. The final tool to be offered for setting priorities is a start, stop, and continue. This is a simple technique for helping you and others identify those tasks and behaviors that offer the greatest value and are most productive in helping you achieve your goals. Again, it starts with a SMART goal. To use this tool, begin by listing all the tasks you do on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. This list will include everything from checking and answering emails, completing expense and other reports, to calling on customers. Everything you do should be listed. As you review your list, you'll begin seeing which tasks you spend the bulk of your productive time on. Some, of course, are mandated by policy and will fall into the continue column. That doesn't mean they need to be accomplished during your most productive times of the day. The question is, which of your current tasks create the most value? Which are those that move you towards the accomplishment of your goal? If they offer real value, then continue doing them. You may find that you need to spend even more time doing those high value things or do them at a time when you are most productive. Everything else on your list, those items that offer little to no value, you may need to stop doing them or at least find a way to spend less time doing them. This may be difficult because some of those low value tasks are things that you've done for a long time. They're comfortable. You may enjoy doing them and you may be good at them. But if they offer little value, you need to at least consider putting them into your stop doing column. This technique also provides you with the means to identify new and more productive tasks and behaviors that you need to start doing. Some may require training or coaching, but they are worth doing because these offer real value. They may even need to take priority over other tasks you are doing right now. I hope you will find these tools helpful and useful. Use them to help set priorities for yourself and your team, because managing is about doing the right things right and putting the first things first.